Hi, and welcome to this week's Mortgage Broker broadcast. For those that listen to this podcast every single week, a couple of weeks ago we celebrated the third birthday of the podcast. Podcasts have been running for 3 unbelievable years. I've loved every single podcast, every single episode that I've recorded, and 153 episodes into the podcast. And at this sort of time, I wanted to reflect a little bit on the podcast, thought about where it's going, what it's achieved over that time, the feedback that I've got from the listeners and subscribers. And so the podcast is going to continue, but we're going to change things up slightly, change things up a little bit in terms of the podcast, clearly define what it is moving forward a little bit more. And what I wanted to do is, rather than me sort of go on and ramble on a little bit about the change that's going to happen, I wanted to get Leigh Rowland on. He's on the podcast every single week already with the Mortgage Broker Bulletin. But what I wanted to do is get Leigh Rowland onto the podcast to explain, talk through with him the change that's going to happen with this podcast, and also talk about the changes that can happen with the new podcast that I'm going to release as well moving forward from the beginning of June. So let's just get Leigh onto the podcast to talk about it. So welcome onto the podcast, Leigh. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thanks, Craig. I'm a bit confused by the sun going down later, but the weather still being poor, and I have to look out the window at what I could be doing if it wasn't for the weather tipping down and being cloudy. So it's put me all out of sync a little bit, mate. But apart from that, I'm brilliant. How are you keeping? You all right?
I'm brilliant too. Really, really good. And I think I'm like you. I think it is. Look at us talking about the weather straight away on the podcast, but we'll explain why we're doing this in a second. Not explain why we're doing the weather, but why we are doing the podcast together. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's I'll be glad when the better weather starts. The lighter nights, but then actually be able to do something on the lighter nights will certainly help. So, but as always, Leigh, nothing we can do about the weather. Can't control it. Can't do anything about it. So don't worry about it.
Exactly. From now on, I won't, Craig. Thank you for the advice on that one.
You're not going to change your life from just me saying something like that. So let's. Anyway, welcome on. Thanks for coming on to the podcast. Normally we do. So be quite involved with the Mortgage Broker broadcast so far this year. We did the 4. I think we've done the 4. Was it 4 weeks of the habits that we did at the start of the year, and you've been then doing the Mortgage Broker Bulletin, which was the 10th one last week. Was that right?
Yeah, 10th one last week. It's been fantastic. So I just can't thank you enough. Just quickly get the thanks out the way. Thanks for involving me with the Mortgage Broker broadcast, mate, because I've learned loads, especially the first few weeks when we're talking about habits, but then a bit about myself as well when I've been having to put a bulletin together. But not the creating the habit actually was fine. It's been quite interesting to be able to record it at different places because I tried to do them outside with a bit of energy. But as I went along, I worked out that I already knew that I don't like talking about specific products from specific lenders, interest rates, and I get all muddled up because I'm trying to do it with a bit of a flow, right? And I've written things down, but I can't remember. In the end, I just thought I'd talk more about how I was feeling for that week or things which had affected me that week. And so it evolved there. But back to the thank you, mate. I just can't thank you enough for getting me involved in such a great podcast. To be honest, you have to pinch myself now and again when it comes out. Then I see you've tagged me in it, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe it. So thank you very much. I do really appreciate the opportunity to come on. Yeah.
No, and I appreciate. Thanks, man. I appreciate you being part of it because it's been good to get. Because I think from my aspect of it is that with you, it just breaks up obviously the podcast, me doing the introduction, then getting you to talk about the world of mortgages that particular week and what's been going on, and particularly for you or rates and things like that, and then getting the guests on or doing the solo episode. I think it's just been good to break that up a little bit. And when we're talking about the reason why we're doing this podcast together today, well, I explain in a second. But like that, it's just good to break that up from that point of view, and you having being brave and doing that. And I know you sort of doing because you've got your own little show going on now with the business snap, like I said, business snapshot going on.
Yeah, I have. I got a local business snapshot, but I'm quite lucky there. I'm just sort of asking the questions of local business people, and just trying to get them to explain a bit about themselves and their business so people can get to know them a little bit better. Uh, I find the bulletin, it's not stressful, is it? I find it both enjoyable in different ways, but the snapshot is easier because I'm just the one asking the questions and trying to extract some detail out to people so they can promote their business. But it's going quite well. It's really, really going well, actually. Chuffed with it.
Good. No, it looks great. Loving the branding, loving the colours on the top and things like that. So bit of a snug pull table green going on with your tops and things like that there. So I'm
Thank
joking,
you.
mate. I'm joking.
I just hope I don't get a green screen because I'll just disappear into it when I'll be a floating head.
Yeah, don't get a green screen because it's just like Max Headroom going on there with a thing going on.
Yeah, but I don't think I had the idea a while ago, but if it wasn't for like coming on your podcast, God, I mean, it was ages ago when was it August 2021 that I first come on your podcast?
Was Jay? Yeah, was. Yes.
Yeah, I know I
Coming for
was
3
doing
years.
I was doing videos and stuff like that, but once you start going on podcasts like yourself, it does give you confidence. And I wouldn't have been able, and listening to other people on various podcasts and yours, I wouldn't have been able to launch the local business snapshot without any of those experiences either, because I wouldn't have known. Well, I don't know if it's not professional anyway, is it? But I wouldn't have had the confidence to even think about starting it. So, yeah, thanks again, really, mate. But yeah, it is bright green, and I love the green. So
It's
there
good.
we
That's
go.
good. You love it as part of that brand, mate. It's a good green. It's the red and green. I was trying to, yeah, no, it is a good brand. And when I see things, I message you about something where the red and green, I was out and I saw a light with the red and the green. And the first thing I thought about is like you and your branding. So it obviously worked. And obviously we've heard Chris Target talk a lot about branding and colours. He talks a lot about that. And obviously that works for you. So that's good.
Yeah, I think I might have pinched a little bit of that off Chris, to be honest with you. His Sainsbury's bag, orange colour. Quite a couple of years ago, I did hear him talking about that, and I got to give him a bit of credit for the green and red, which you see everywhere. Anyway, we're not here to talk about me. What's going on with the Mortgage Broker Broadcast podcast then?
So what I was thinking is that, and thanks for being part of this this episode, because what I wanted to do is sort of get to that juncture thinking I'm doing solo episodes. We've got you involved with the bulletin, and then we've got we have great guests on the podcast. And what I was thinking is changing things up slightly with the podcast moving forward. So the Mortgage Broker Broadcast is here to stay. We're still going to be doing the podcast, but what I would thought about doing, what I'm going to be doing from the beginning of June, is that this is the last Mortgage Broker broadcast for this kind of season or episodes or whatever you want to call it. And then what I'm going to do moving forward now is that rather than include the solo episodes in the Mortgage Broker broadcast, it purely is going to be a guest podcast. It's going to be an hour, and it's going to be every single month. So the podcast now will go monthly for an hour rather than weekly, mixing up with solos, mixing up with guests and doing various things as well. Obviously getting you involved with sort of sessions and things like that as well. What I wanted to do is having that clear defined break. So we'd like say it is Mortgage Broker broadcast is a guest podcast from people with industry, because I thought about it's because you've been going 3 years. So you get to that point when you're thinking, is this right? Is it still relevant? Is it still doing what it needs to do? Is it attracting the right audience? Where is it at as a podcast? And it was just, for me, thinking it just needs to define what exactly it is. And so the Mortgage Broker broadcast is a guest podcast, people from the industry, experienced brokers, new brokers, lenders, providers, marketing people, all the people we've had on already, and then more. So the feedback was from the people that watch the podcast, listen to podcasts, the downloads and the subscribers, was that it's something that's wants to keep going, but I wanted to define it more. And having a weekly guest show podcast that's like an hour long it takes me. I've got a business page. So I love doing it, but and it's funny you should say something like that because you said about you find being the host easier than what you do being a guest. I find that very different. I find the hosting more difficult than I do being a guest. But we'll come on to that. But I just think I would rather have an hour of a podcast where it's clearly defined as an hour long podcast. We're going to do intros. We're still going to have you on as a bulletin. Is that
Oh,
all
cool.
right? I've just sprung out
Yeah,
that
cool.
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right.
That's good. Yeah, brilliant.
So I think I think what the idea will be is that you and I will interview you a little bit on the podcast at the beginning, doing the month. So it's going to be a monthly bulletin, reviewing them all. Because you know what I'm like. I'm always keen about people reflecting, reviewing,
Yeah.
journaling, and thinking about what's gone on in the last day, week, month, year, whatever. So I think with the monthly bulletin, it will be a good chance for you and I to get you to review the month from a broker's perspective as what's been going on from the broker market kind of thing. So, and from a market point of view, and then we're going to get guests on. So we've got some guests already booked in, new guests that have never done podcasts before, which will be interesting, all from the space of mortgage broking, mortgage advising, financial advising, whatever you want to call it. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah. So in a nutshell, you're going to go once a month with a guest. I'm still here doing a bulletin, but it's going to be me and you talking basically about the month before, market trends, and what's going on within our sector. Is that it?
Exactly. That is it in a nutshell.
Perfect.
So, and then what I want to do then moving forward, it's like splitting the solo episodes with so the podcast is going monthly, which is less than what we
Yeah.
do now. It's probably about right. The guests probably are monthly anyway, so I don't think it makes any difference to that. But what I'm going to do is from the 1st of June, we're just doing a totally new solo podcast, which is going to be daily, 5 minutes, called the Mortgage Broker Mindset.
Get
I'm
in
looking for your
there.
reaction on your face. I'm looking
Yes.
for your reaction.
Well, you know how I feel. We know each other quite well, but people don't know if we know we're both quite passionate about that, aren't we? How mortgage brokers think and feel. Go on, I'll let you elaborate on that then. So did you say every day? How long?
5 minutes, Monday to Friday. So I'm going to do it every single day, 5 days a week. And it is just going to be solo podcast, no guests, nothing else, but just talking about mortgage broking, talking about mindset. Because I think the thing is that it's a 5 minute podcast. It's easy. The idea is 5 minutes long. So it's literally start your day with it. I know there's a few podcasts I listen to quite a lot of podcasts, and there's podcasts that I have where they're an hour long, put them in the background, listen to them. There's people talking, being interviewed. I'll pick stuff up and I'm listening to it while I'm still doing stuff around that, or walking or running or like whatever you're doing. You can listen to like an hour long podcast. I think that's like a good time if you're running, if you're out walking and out, like you've got that hour thing. Whereas with the shorter one, 5 minutes long, that's more about having impact. This podcast is a couple of podcasts I listen to every single day that are just 5 minutes long, not mortgage broker related, nothing to do with the industry, but just 5 minutes long that I will listen to. So my routine will be, I know what my routine's like. So that's set up within every single day that start of the day, 5 minutes, and I listen to the podcast. There's no TV on in the background, no other distraction, anything. I will listen to that, what that's got to say. And there'll be days where I'll take stuff from it, and there'll be days where I just listen to it, and it's just a reminder of stuff about what I know already. But the idea is to then, because you know, it's like you're quite lucky that you've got a team to work with in your office. You've got a small, like you're close knit people. There's days where you're on your own, but then there's days where you are surrounded by quite a few people. You've got people in the building that you're interacting with. You sat in the coffee shop and things like that. But from a broker's point of view, most self-employed advisors are based from home, based remotely. And so just having that 5 minute of impact, I just want to try and help the book. So I'm going to be still doing the stuff that I'm doing already on the podcast, but just condensing it down 5 minutes every single day, 5 days a week to have impact. So you can then literally, right, I've listened to it, took something from it, took nothing from it, whatever the case may be, and then you move on with your day.
Sounds brilliant, because when I was when I was working out of Esme's bedroom in COVID, it was lonely. I've said this before. It was lonely, mate. Honestly, I was just plowing through work, but I had, I had no one to talk to really about how I could talk to someone about mortgages. I could, you could ring a ring a BDM or something. Go, oh, I got a problem with a mortgage, but you couldn't talk to anybody about how you were thinking and feeling on that specific day or week, really, because everybody was, you didn't want to moan and groan, but you had nobody there anyway. So if people are working from home and you're hoping there's like a coincidence, aren't you, really, that the thing you're saying in that day or week resonates with that person on that day, so it can help them through that day. But obviously they can also go back and listen to them. I think it's a great idea, because you'll have 25 minutes of value then, won't you, throughout the week, each week. That's the way to look at it. And you'll have them in short, sharp bursts, which you can just ingest, and then hopefully it resonates. So you use it to, I don't know, make it more positive or productive throughout the day. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Great idea, mate.
Thank you. Cheers for that feedback. And because there's something that I've just sprung on you right now. I've not talked about to anybody else about it, and because I think that, but it's just sort of that's just how things have progressed over the 3 years of the podcast, in terms of when I look back. But like you say, I'm doing like the weekly podcast anyway is about 20 minutes long, 25 minutes long, and it's just going on about a certain subject. Whereas I just feel that it's more beneficial to like 5 minutes and then move on with your day. And like I said, there'll be days where you'll take things from it, the days that you won't, but they're always going to be there. It's going to be a podcast that's listed on Apple iTunes. It's going to be on social media. It's going to be like everywhere else that the Mortgage Broker Bulletin is, but it's just going to be 5 minutes, 5 days a week.
I think from a listener's point of view, i.e. me, right? Because I listen, I listen to the podcast, but I'd be gutted if it wasn't going to go once. I would be gutted if you turned around just then and said, oh, listen, Lee, we're scrapping it. I'm going to have 5 minutes every day, and the Mortgage Broker broadcast podcast is gone. Like, I'm glad that you're doing one a month, because I think that so many people listen to it, so many people get value from it. I'm glad that you're still alive then, if you like, and it's going to that'll have more value as well, because like you said, you can probably focus on it a little bit. Not saying you don't focus on it, mate. Hang on a minute before I say that. What I mean is, it'll be completely focused on that 1 hour, won't it? Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But I'm glad you haven't just, excuse the expression, just binned it off. I think there's too much history and too much value in it for it to be binned off. So the new, I'm into that. So I get both worlds then. So I get a podcast once a month with somebody, and I also get some mindset stuff every day. Wow, come on. Yeah, well, I can handle that, Craig, and I'm involved in it. Oh, so win for me. I'm chuffed for this. Going well.
Good. I'm glad I'm all giving this morning to you, Lee. Then it's all good. Good. But yeah, I think it's just like you said. It is. It's about that sort of look. Say it is having that 5 minutes of just trying to start your day with regards to having impact, having like sorry, because it is. I'm waffling a bit with this. This doesn't sound too great, but the idea of it is that it is 5 minutes you can just listen to, because you are on your own. Like you say, you're in Esme's bedroom. Like even though we've got people that we're all based remotely, there's loads of people I speak to every single day, but we are very much on our own, sat remotely, sat in a bedroom, an office, dining room, wherever it case may be, or not. Like I say, people have offices where they just sat on their own in one, like a corner unit kind of thing as well, or hotspot in the desks and things like that. So it's just about having that contact with somebody that's in the mortgage broker space, somebody that you can listen to, somebody that can sort of, and I'm not sort of saying everything I'd say is right or relevant or will have impact in terms of what you're doing, but I enjoy that aspect of it. And I think, it's like, Lee, it's always about doing what you enjoy. And I think it's sort of if I feel as though the feedback that I get on the Mortgage Broker broadcast from a podcast point of view is that it's helped like a lot of people get in the industry, retaining the industry, and help them develop the business. So it's not I want to help doing that. And I'm not saying, like, there's no ego there. I don't think everything I
No.
say is right or relevant or anything like that. But if I can just have impact with one person every single day, I feel as though I'm doing my part to the industry, which is already a really great industry to be part of.
Well, I don't think you're going to get all preachy about things anyway, mate. It might be called mindset, but you're not going to get all preachy. It's going to be practical, isn't it? That's what it's going to be. Practical information based around mindset. You're not going to get all preachy and weird on people. So I wouldn't worry about that. And
I can't see that happening anytime soon.
We're all in it. We are all in it together, and we've all got to help each other. And I think that's always been your ethos on things since I've known you, anyway. And the new format sounds excellent, mate. I'm glad that I've had this open conversation with you, sort of live. Thanks for involving me. But yeah, the new format all around sounds pretty good, to be fair.
Good. No, thanks for that feedback. And I did want to drop you on that. So I got your instant reaction in terms of what your feedback was in terms of the Mortgage Broker broadcast, but then also the new daily Mortgage Broker mindset as well. So luckily I've registered that. Like I said, the first one's out in June. We'll start the Mortgage Broker mindset beginning of June. The Mortgage Broker broadcast will start the first Wednesday in June as well. So it's just in all the known places. I'll make sure there's links in between each podcast anyway. But I'm really excited about the change up and having that sort of clear defined. This is the broker broadcast. This is the mindset, and it's got those clear defined paths. And from a broker's point of view, from a listener's point of view, you understand clearly what the two podcasts are without the intermingle, shall we say?
Oh, brilliant! But I look forward to listening to it as well, mate. Really look forward to it.
Thanks, Leigh. No, thanks for your interaction. Thanks for trusting me to come on the guest of this sort of last sort of episode of the podcast as it is now, and the format is now. So thanks for agreeing to do that and come on to a podcast with no agenda and just trusting me to go, right, let's hit record and I'm going to talk about things that I'm going to change up and getting your instant reaction with it as always. So, and thanks for involving the bulletin. And I'm looking forward to getting to a bit more into with the bulletin now as we move forward. When we get this started in June, it's going to be very much like this format that we're talking about, reviewing the mortgage broker market, the mortgage broker world, the financial service industry over that previous month, and we're going to have a chat about it. And I'm going to be the host asking you questions, or vice versa. We'll see how that goes. But I'm looking forward to that. So, but Leigh, thanks for coming to the podcast today. Thanks for your time, and thanks for trusting me with and giving me honest feedback on the change that's going to happen.
It's my pleasure. Thanks very much, Craig. I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for that, Leigh. Thanks for the honest opinion on the feedback on the podcast and the change that's going to happen. Hopefully all those changes make sense. Mortgage Broker Broadcast is now going monthly from the beginning of June. Guest episodes with a bulletin with Leigh and I discussing the past month from a mortgage broker point of view. And also then moving forward, Mortgage Broker Mindset is going to be 5 days a week, 5-minute podcast talking about mortgage broking, business owning, mindsets and things like that. And as Leigh said, it's not about preaching or anything like that. It's just about helping and supporting mortgage brokers in their daily routine, their daily structure, and just being a mortgage broker, a self-employed mortgage broker that it's aimed at. So yeah, hopefully all that makes sense. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Any thoughts, feedback, as comments, as always, leave them in whichever platform you watch or listen to the podcast on. Anything you want to directly message on, then I'm absolutely fine with that as well. Any questions or thoughts or issues, topics, etc., etc. Looking forward to the new podcast, getting out on a daily. Looking forward to continue with the Mortgage Broker broadcast. And as always, don't forget to run your own race.